So, the European Union just dropped the world's first major rulebook for artificial intelligence. And its goal? Well, it's simple on the surface, but wow, is it ambitious. To build AI that we can all actually trust. So what does that really mean for you and me? Let's get into it.
You know that old saying, garbage in, garbage out? Well, for AI, that is literally the golden rule. The quality of an AI, how good its decisions are, how fair it is, it all comes down to the quality of the data it was trained on. I mean, think about it. An AI can't be any smarter than the information it learns from, right? And this is where it gets really personal. See, when an AI is making huge decisions about our lives, flawed data isn't just some tech glitch. It can cause real, tangible harm. It can reinforce old biases and change the course of someone's life. And that is exactly what the EU AI Act is trying to stop.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to dig into this whole garbage in problem. Then we'll look at what the EU says good data actually is. After that, we'll see how the Act tackles bias, what the rules look like in the real world, and finally we'll zoom out to the big picture, the ultimate goal behind this whole thing.
All right, let's dive right in with the garbage in problem. It's pretty straightforward. If you build an AI on data that's biased, inaccurate, or just incomplete, the AI itself is just going to become a machine for repeating those same mistakes. That's why data quality is the absolute foundation for any AI we're supposed to trust.
Now, the Act isn't trying to regulate every single AI out there. Instead, it laser focuses on what it calls high-risk systems. And we're talking about the areas where the stakes are highest. Things like healthcare, who gets hired for a job, law enforcement, and even your ability to get essential services. These are the places where a bad decision can have serious consequences. So if bad data is the villain of our story, what's the hero? Well, the EU's answer is to actually define what good data looks like. Article 10 of the Act really gets into the weeds and sets up 4 key pillars for data quality.
The Act basically breaks it down into 4 main questions you have to ask. First, is the data even relevant? Is it the right tool for the job? Second, is it representative? Does it actually mirror the real world, or is it totally skewed? Third, is it accurate? Is it correct, or riddled with errors? And finally, is it complete? Are there huge gaps in the data that could lead the AI to the wrong conclusion?
Okay, this next part is a really big deal, fighting algorithmic bias. Because even if your data is pretty high quality, historical biases can still sneak their way in. The Act makes it clear that we can't just sit back and hope for the best. We have to be proactive. We've got to hunt for that discrimination and actively fix it.
So let's just make sure we're all on the same page here. Algorithmic bias is basically when an AI system learns from the prejudices in its training data, the biases that already exist out in the world, and then just amplifies them. It can lead to unfair outcomes for whole groups of people, even if no one intended for that to happen.
And this brings us to a really, really tricky ethical problem. On one side, using sensitive personal data like someone's ethnicity or health info is a huge privacy risk. But on the other side, how are you supposed to find and fix a bias against a specific group if you're not even allowed to look at data related to that group? The Act confronts this dilemma head-on. So, to handle this, the Act doesn't just give a thumbs up, no way. It lays down some super strict conditions. It says you can only use sensitive data to fix bias if it's absolutely necessary. And even then, the data has to be protected. We're talking pseudonymization, strict access controls, no sharing it with anyone, and deleting it the second the job is done.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the what and the why. Now let's get down to brass tacks. How does all of this legal language turn into actual practical responsibilities for the companies building these high-risk AI systems?
Well, the Act boils it down to 4 main jobs for providers. They need to have solid data governance, which is just a fancy way of saying they need a clear plan for how to handle data responsibly. They have to create detailed technical documentation to prove to regulators they followed the rules. They need a continuous risk management process to keep an eye out for problems. And this one is huge. There has to be human oversight, so a real person can step in and override the AI at any time. So let's pull back and look at the big picture here. What's the grand idea driving all of these rules and regulations? It really all comes down to finding a very specific and very important balance.
And you might be surprised, but the first goal is actually to foster innovation. The EU wants to create a place where companies can confidently build and sell trustworthy AI.
The idea is that clear, reliable rules will actually encourage creativity and make Europe a leader in responsible AI.
But, and this is probably the most important but of all, that innovation can't just be a free-for-all that comes at the expense of people's rights. The Act is designed to be a crucial guardrail. It's there to protect our safety, our privacy, and our right to be treated fairly. It's about putting people, not just technology, at the center of everything.
So if you take away one thing, let it be this. The AI Act isn't some static law carved in stone. It's built on a risk-based approach, which means it puts the toughest rules on the most dangerous AI applications. And it's designed to be a living document, something that can adapt and evolve right alongside the technology.
And that, of course, leaves us with the million-dollar question, doesn't it? The EU has laid an incredible, groundbreaking foundation. But in a field that is moving at lightning speed, can any set of rules ever truly keep up with reality? That's the question we'll all be watching. Thanks for tuning in.